Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. During the first period of a man's life, the greatest danger is not to take the risk. Love does not alter the beloved, it alters itself. Most men pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that they hurry past it. Patience is necessary, and one cannot reap immediately where one has sown. It belongs to the imperfection of everything human that man can only attain his desire by passing through its opposite. Personality is only ripe when a man has made the truth his own. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. Confidence is the present tense of hope. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. One can advise comfortably from a safe port. The deepest form of despair is to choose to be another than himself. Wherever there is a crowd, there is untruth. How absurd men are! They never use the liberties they have, they demand those they do not have. It is not the path which is the difficulty, rather, it is the difficulty which is the path. They have freedom of thought, they demand freedom of speech. The minority is always stronger than the majority, because the minority is generally formed by those who really have an opinion. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Don't forget to love yourself. The unhappy person is never present to themselves because they always live in the past or the future. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. At the bottom of enmity between strangers lies indifference. Life has its own hidden forces which you can only discover by living. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. Marry, and you will regret it. Don't marry, you will also regret it. Marry or don't marry, you will regret it either way. It seems essential, in relationships and all tasks, that we concentrate only on what is most significant and important. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose oneself, and to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of oneself. People settle for a level of despair they can tolerate and call it happiness. Take a chance, and you may lose. Take not a chance, and you have lost already. Are you not aware that there comes a midnight hour when everyone must unmask? I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations, one can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it, you will regret both. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful: he makes saints out of sinners. The tyrant dies, and his rule is over. The martyr dies, and his rule begins. It belongs to the imperfection of everything human that man can only attain his desire by passing through its opposite. To cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception. It is an eternal loss for which there is no reparation, either in time or in eternity. Purity of heart is to will one thing. Take away paradox from the thinker, and you have a professor. Once you label me, you negate me. Since my earliest childhood, a barb of sorrow has lodged in my heart. As long as it stays, I am ironic. If it is pulled out, I shall die. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. Far from idleness being the root of all evil, it is rather the only true good. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. I begin with the principle that all men are bores. Surely no one will prove himself so great a bore as to contradict me in this. Trouble is the common denominator of living. It is the great equalizer. Hope is passion for what is possible. The more people who believe something, the more apt it is to be wrong. The person who's right often has to stand alone. Just as in earthly life lovers long for the moment when they are able to breathe forth their love for each other, to let their souls blend in a soft whisper, so the mystic longs for the moment when in prayer he can, as it were, creep into God. If I am capable of grasping God objectively, I do not believe, but precisely because I cannot do this, I must believe. It is better to try something and fail than to try nothing and succeed. The result may be the same, but you won't be. We always grow more through defeats than victories. The more a man can forget, the greater the number of metamorphoses which his life can undergo. The more he can remember, the more divine his life becomes. Far from idleness being the root of all evil, it is rather the only true good. I found I had less and less to say, until finally, I became silent and began to listen. I discovered in the silence the voice of God. Because of its tremendous solemnity, death is the light in which great passions, both good and bad, become transparent, no longer limited by outward appearances. Marriage brings one into fatal connection with custom and tradition, and traditions and customs are like the wind and weather, altogether incalculable. Concepts, like individuals, have their histories and are just as incapable of withstanding the ravages of time as are individuals. But in and through all this, they retain a kind of homesickness for the scenes of their childhood. The Bible is very easy to understand. But we Christians are a bunch of scheming swindlers. We pretend to be unable to understand it, because we know very well that the minute we understand, we are obliged to act accordingly. Above all, do not lose your desire to walk. Every day, I walk myself into a state of well-being and walk away from every illness.